everybody, what's going on? Today we are doing a bike check on my GT RTS, which was originally GT RTS 1, and I actually ended up buying this bike only as a frame, and it was from a local guy who had was selling this frame, and it came equipped with an original black swing arm here, the steel chromoly one, but you know, he also had a spare 1996 RTS 3 that was ball burnished, and it had a crack at the bottom bracket shell, but it had this aluminum swing arm which I wanted, had the little horse lane kind of thing. So he pretty much sold me that busted frame and this frame, plus he gave me a Nolene piggyback. I had it originally installed on that bike, but I rode it really hard on Retro Bike Night back in, I think, 2017, and I ended up blowing out the seals. Anyway, when I went to get it rebuilt, I got the parts mixed up in a donation, parts that I donate to a local place mixed up, and so, you know, unfortunately I had to take the rear shock of the RTS 3, throw it onto here. And so, interestingly enough, you can tell just because on Nolene's, the later Nolene piggyback, or the Nolene rear shocks without the piggyback, they don't have that little adjustable nut. It's just one fixed piece. But at some point, I'm going to switch this out, and I'm going to actually put on a Risty Racing Genesis rear air shock on here. If anybody is looking for, and then I can actually I should do a review on that, see how it rides. So that's what I ended up doing in terms of having to change out the rear suspension. The front is actually kind of neat. Since this was only a frame, I also cannibalized the GT Team iDrive that had this SID shock. The only thing that was really wrong is the bushings on it were completely shot on both sides. The fork probably never saw any service, so I had to talk to Jerry Vanderpool when he was owning and operating Hippie Tech Suspensions. Anyway, it was a first gen SID fork, hence these lowers are a little different. Actually, he swapped these out with some brand new lowers, which are still pretty good. And also, if anybody remembers the first gen SID, you had to actually put in air on both. Anyway, he modded this fork so it actually has 2006 RockShox SID internals, and so it has a little rebound adjust. And also, the really interesting, cool part about it is it's dual air on a single stanchion. So underneath here, and you don't need that funky needle adapter. You can just use, you know, a standard Schrader air shock valve onto it. And this has worked out great. Actually, this is probably one of Jerry Vanderpool's or Hippie Tech Suspension's last rebuilds, I think. So that kind of was a bummer. I had other projects that I wanted him to work on, but, you know, it just wasn't his thing. Anyway, another thing that I've done is I pretty much made this bike, built this bike on a budget, hence these really cheap like eBay V-brake levers. Not really the best. I think once I can do I have another RTS that I'm going to do a disc brake conversion on, and actually I'll put that out pretty soon, which is cool, but it's still kind of getting refined. Anyway, these brake levers don't really work all that great. They're just really funky. Also, I ended up getting some SRAM like for real cheap at a clearance bin at Performance Bicycle, and what I had done is I just purchased these. They were like a return item, and I found out, you know, you can kind of mix and match the SRAM shifters with the front derailleur of a Shimano, so it works out really well. The other thing I've done is I went with this really generic Handlebar and Stem just because it's silver. If I could find one that was gonna fit this bike and it was silver, like, you know, in this color that would go well with the frame, I would have done it. Another thing that I did is I ended up buying this used Pro Logo saddle and the C-post that fits it, and, you know, it was like under 20 bucks, so I couldn't complain. One of the neat things that I do like are these budget wheels. Bike Nash Bar, to this day, it's right now July 6th, and they still have these Volta Zero Light tire wheels that are, of course, rim brake only, and you can get a pair for under, you know, 100 bucks when they're not even on sale. The only thing is you got to be careful. You have to rebuild these hubs and repack them. because they only put like I don't know if they've resolved that issue, but they like don't put that much grease in them. And the other kind of twist is, you know, so you end up having to repack things so you don't destroy your wheel. But so far they kind of look nice, you know. I like them. They're pretty cool. This thing, I just got, you know, I've had this sitting around, you know, this triple, and I know, like, ooh, it's not the trend or whatever, but I don't care. I like triples on an old bike like this. It's pretty classic. It's one of my favorite kind of things, and it's not too bad, you know, it's not too bad at gearing, and it works, you know, the Shimano XTR SR Suntour combo with the scored taper, it's fine. Like, I also replaced the bottom bracket on this. I found, you know, I ended up, you know, spending, I think that the brand new bottom bracket and the Shimano 9-speed rear derailleur with the long cage were like the most expensive items here besides the wheel set. The brakes I ended up getting, you know, these Shimano ones, I think I recycled cycles because I had some store credit from old parts I had turned in for store credit. But other than that, like, it's kind of an interesting bike, just because, you know, could you imagine like 20 some, you know, like if you're in your 20s or something getting into mountain biking, you're looking at this thing like right here, right, and this front setup, and this actually has more travel than the original fork, which would have been a RockShox, you know, mag 21 or something, like 55 millimeters of travel front and rear, something like that. Not a lot, like barely 2.5 inches, and it was considered a downhill bike. This was considered a downhill bike. I still ride and race this bike occasionally. I think ever since it's been featured at Sea Otter for GT's 25-year exhibit, I haven't done that, just because now I'm like, oh, look at it, it's a beautiful bike, you know. So I'll ride it as hard. I have 2 other RTS bikes. I'll do a bike check on those. Kind of similar setup, but they're a little different too. One's a little more original than another, and another one's, I have 2 other RTS series, 2 different sizes, but they both fit me fine. This one I think is in a 16. Maybe it's in a 14 because it feels pretty stout, but this is a fun bike. How would I say about handling? I think cross country, it's probably an okay bike. You can kind of feel it. You know, like you can kind of feel the pedal bob a little bit on it, but so you have to really kind of adjust this coil over really delicately. The other thing, if you notice, like if you look at the GT, if anybody knows about the latest, well, the last iteration of iDrive with the AOS, one of the things that's really neat is, it's getting windy out here, but look, it's kind of like the GT AOS system is sort of a nod to the RTS, because, you know, this would be like the PathLink here, right? Except, you know, the obvious bottom bracket would be part of the PathLink thing. But it's kind of funny to think that now GT just released like what they call, like, you know, really a revisit of the LTS 4-bar system, and again, it's like the RTS revision was before the LTS revision, but the RTS came before the LTS, you know, things like that. So it's kind of a little neat thing. It's like they had taken some old tech and made it better. I like the iDrive. They'll be interesting to see, but also I think the LTS bikes are a pretty cool deal too. Descending, this bike is really, really neat. It's sponsored by FedEx. No, I'm kidding. So the really neat part about it is when you stand up, this bike is pretty stiff. When you sit down, then the suspension activates, and it's all locked out by this little rocker arm. So this is sensitive to body weight. If you move your body weight forward, it locks out, or you're standing, kind of locks out. And if you sit down, your body weight's like here, hence the C-tube angle, and you get some nice compression. It's not definitely the plushest bike. It feels more like a Softail, but anyway, this is my GT RTS build. If you have any questions, feel free to, you know, shoot me any questions that you have. If you're looking for parts, totally let me know. Anyway, I thought it would be cool to start out, since GT released their latest full suspension platform, you know, hashtag feed your LTS. I thought it'd be cool to go and talk about one of GT's first ever suspension mountain bikes. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me. I'm just gonna ride around the trail on this thing. Maybe I can catch some action shots. And again, check it out, or check out my YouTube channel. I'll do more bike checks. I'll try to make it weekly. The other cool part that I'll do is I'll totally try to do some other kind of product review stuff that's bike related, of course, for stuff like this, like, you know, obviously Forte tires, like for performance or whatever. Kind of just some budget stuff. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you again soon. Yuri on YouTube. Peace out.